Gwen the Gazelle loved to leap higher and farther than anyone else. Every morning she would bound out of bed and race across the savanna. Her favorite thing was to jump over logs, bushes, even little hills. And after a good rain, she'd leap over puddles, kicking up her heels and squealing with delight. One day, all the animals were gathered by the river. It was the best jumping place of all. The tall grasses grew right up to the water's edge, so it was easy to hide and then pounce out into the open for the perfect jump. But today, Gwen didn't want to jump into the river. Not just any river, but the widest river in the savanna. Gwen had been watching the other animals play. First, there was Zane, the zebra. He'd prance up to the edge, snort, and then he'd leap across with 4 powerful kicks of his hind legs. Or Flora, the flamingo, who stood on one leg and then took off into the air, flying easily from one bank to the other. Even Kevin the crocodile jumped into the river to bask on an island in the middle. Then he'd slither back onto the bank, shake himself dry and sunbathe on the warm rocks. But Gwen didn't want to jump into the river. She wanted to jump across it. She was sure she could do it. She just wasn't sure she wanted to try. Gwen bounced on her toes, watching the other animals play. What if she could leap across the whole river? She looked at the tall grasses on the far bank. They were almost like a hill, just far, far away. If she could jump really high, she could fly through the air like a bird and land on the other side. Maybe not like a bird, more like a furry projectile. Taking a deep breath, Gwen darted out of the grasses. She took 3 strong jumps, then soared through the air. She landed on the ground, hard. Ouch. That was embarrassing. All the other animals stopped playing and stared. Gwen felt her ears burning with shame. A kind voice broke the silence. That was quite a jump, my dear Gwen. It was Flora, the flamingo, and she sounded as though she were trying not to giggle. Gwen lowered her head, wishing she could disappear. Don't be upset, Gwen, said Zane, the zebra, trotting over to her. It takes practice to jump far. I know, Gwen mumbled, looking down at her hooves. She wanted to try again, but now she was scared. What if she fell into the water? She couldn't swim very well and the current was strong. She didn't want to be swept away. Kevin the crocodile poked his head out of the water. That won't happen if you jump from the bank, he said. The current is too strong near the middle of the river. No one can swim that far without getting tired. Gwen looked at Kevin, then at the river, then back at Kevin. You mean I could jump from your island? She asked. Of course, said Kevin. I don't mind at all. An idea popped into Gwen's head. If she jumped from the island, then she wouldn't have to worry about the current. And Kevin would be there if she fell. Thank you, Kevin, Gwen said. And thank you, Zane. And thank you, Flora, for encouraging me. You don't need our encouragement, Gwen, said Flora. You can do this all by yourself. Gwen wasn't so sure, but she knew what she wanted to do. So she raced across the savanna to the river. As she approached the island, she could hear Kevin cheering her on. Taking a deep breath, Gwen lined up her jumps, kicked off with her powerful hind legs and sailed through the air. She landed on the island and stood on shaky legs. She did it. She was on the other side of the river. Gwen looked back. Zane and Flora were racing toward her, their eyes shining with excitement. Soon they were bounding around her, congratulating her on her great jump. I can't believe I did it, Gwen whispered, looking from Zane to Flora and back again. You did it all by yourself, said Flora, nudging Gwen playfully. Just then, Gwen heard a familiar voice booming with laughter. Good job, Gwen. You really showed didn't ya? It was Mama Gazelle. She bounded over to them, her eyes twinkling with pride. I'm so glad you came to watch, Mama, Gwen said, nuzzling her. Of course I came to watch. I knew you'd do great. Now let's go tell your father. As they walked along the river, Gwen noticed something. She hadn't seen Kevin anywhere. He must have gone back to sunbathing, she thought. When they reached their home, Papa Gazelle was napping under a bush. Gwen woke him up with a big lick on the ear. Then she told him all about her adventures. You were brave, Gwen, Papa Gazelle said, nuzzling her. I knew you could do it. You just needed a little courage. I had a little help from my friends, Gwen said. Papa Gazelle smiled. Friends are great to have around, Gwen, especially when you need a little courage. But you know, true courage isn't about never being afraid. It's about doing what you need to do even when you are afraid. So that means, Gwen began. That means you were brave when you tried to jump across the river, even when you were scared you might fall in, Papa Gazelle finished. Gwen thought about this as she snuggled up to her father. He was right. When she first started jumping, she wasn't afraid. But once she decided to jump across the river, she was scared. But she did it anyway. She was brave. Gwen the Gazelle was the bravest gazelle in the savannah. She learned that day that being brave doesn't mean you're never afraid. It means you try anyway.